Okay, yeah. Southside, yeah. That's where I spend downtime, yeah. I mean it, night the rap, I check the podcast for the smoke, yeah. I don't wanna fight with trolls, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Southside Rabbi. I am Amin the Dream. And first of all, before we even get into it, let me introduce you to this man right here. K to the second letter. This man right here is your pastor's pastor. That's who this man is. And the thing is, he's not even a pastor. Lord. KB is so brilliant that your pastor
Yours.
is calling him saying, hey man, hey brother, I got this sermon that I got to preach on Sunday. I just wanted to go over these notes with you right quick just to see what you think. Yeah,
give me something.
Just give me a little something on there. Just give me a little mustard. Give me a little sauce.
Little
I just
mustard.
want to know what you think about this, right? This is your pastor's favorite pastor. I'm talking about Kevin Elijah Smooth and Groove Burgess, true theologian for real. Don't leave your Bible around him for real. Now listen, CSB, when CSB came to us with a sponsorship, this is who they wanted. This is really who they wanted.
Shout out to CSB.
Shout out to our sponsor,
one of our proud
CSB.
sponsors. We
Yes.
love their translation because before CSB came on the scene, our sponsors were a little shaky, brother.
Oh man, we had Ray Ray's malt liquor.
Ray Ray's malt liquor,
And,
90% liquor, only
yeah,
10%
right.
malt.
Yeah.
Gotta get it. Gotta get it.
We had the
John-
Easy Reader Study Bible,
Right.
an entire version of the Bible that is written in 3 sentences.
Right, yep.
We had to promote this thing
Yeah,
somehow.
we had John O's Crab Shack.
John O's Crab Shack, that was a big one.
The people were getting sick eating that stuff. So
absolutely.
I'm glad that we have better sponsors, all because of this man right here and his ability to be able to break down the text.
Wow.
So this is Kevin Elijah Smooth and Groove Burgess.
Thank you.
Ladies
And
and
let me
gentlemen.
I'm not even going to try to compete with what he did. I just want to say I've had a long run. I think I had like 5 episodes in a row.
You've been
where
5-0.
folks said that I was killing the intro game.
yeah.
But I have been outdone consistently today, and I'm going to, put my hat in hand and take my L and sit down. Let me just say that I love this brother. He is my best friend. And if he needed a kidney, I would give him mine to help find somebody. All right.
Bruh.
Take that. But it's not about us today.
It's not.
Today's not about us, I mean.
Right, it's
It
not.
is not about us. Today,
Listen.
we have a dignitary
Oh, my
on
gosh.
the show. We have
I mean,
someone.
when he arrived, there was flags on the front of the car.
There was flowers that followed him as he was walking in, that followed and preceded him. There was literally people throwing flowers so that his feet could not just touch the ground.
And I don't even know where the people came from.
I didn't never.
Are they
I've
hired?
never seen these
Are
people.
they interns? We just got done talking about internships.
They're mine.
Who are these people?
They're mine.
They said, pave the way, greatness has arrived. When I tell you that when he walked into the room, the temperature actually went down. It went down because he literally breathes in the atmosphere.
Listen.
When he steps into a room. We are talking about a man's vocal cords that were imagined in a heavenly place before the foundation of the earth.
The vocal cords were tickled by the fingertips of God himself.
The Lord, he
tuned them.
played
He
his
tuned
tunes. Wow.
He tuned him.
He literally, he had one of those tuning sticks. He was
Yes.
like, bing.
Who are you talking about?
That's what happened.
Yes, Michael Archangel was like, yes.
that's it. That's it.
Yahweh. Yeah.
That's it right there.
You did it this time.
That's the right tone.
Yes, we are talking about none other
Then Mr. This is how we do it himself.
This is how we do it. This is how we do it. One of the most iconic songs of all time.
Absolutely. Timeless.
Oh, God.
We are talking about the man, the myth, the movement, the demonstration,
The voice.
the experience, the voice. Montell Jordan, make some noise for our guy right now.
You cannot be talking about me. There has never been an intro, I think, in my 52 years of grown folk life that has paralleled what just happened right there.
Brother, it was only right though. We cannot take any credit for doing the right thing. You know what I'm saying?
It has been done. What's up? How y'all doing?
We are well, man.
We're
Welcome
good.
to the show. Thank you for coming down to make some time for us at Southside Rabbi. Montell was actually in concert at Amalie Arena.
Yeah.
And by God's grace, we was able to pull some strings. You know what I'm saying? We were able to, you know what I'm saying? I had to jump over some hurdles. You know what I'm saying? But we
Listen,
were able
when you
to
my pastor's pastor, you can get stuff done. You get stuff
use my
done.
authority, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah, that's what you said.
But thank you so much for coming to be with us. So we
Yeah, man.
want to so badly talk about two things.
Mm-hmm.
We want to talk about your testimony because Montell is pastoring. He is a devoted follower of Jesus Christ, has done some powerful things in his life.
Amen.
And we also want to talk to you about the music industry. We want to talk about
Yeah.
Def Jam. We want to talk about this is how we do it. We want to get into all of that. So, brother, can we just start a little bit with your story? Can you just talk to me a little bit how you became, you know, this superstar and the journey into that and kind of to where you are now?
For sure. Well, you know, as I'll find a place to just kind of jump in there and
Sure.
then just feel free to jump in and ask me, you know, as I'm navigating
Will
through
do.
that.
Will do.
Born in South Central LA, California.
LA.
Mom has me 3 days before her 18th birthday. Not married, so I was the product of baby mama drama back in the 60s, where in African American community, if you get somebody pregnant and don't marry them, that's looked at a lot of different ways, especially in the church.
Sure.
That was my upbringing. Did not realize that I was even, you know, I had a dad, Mr. Jordan, raised me my entire life.
Yeah.
But didn't realize I was adopted into the name Jordan until I was like 16 years old.
Really?
So I was originally born Montell Deshaun Barnett. And did not know that until I was 16 years old, that my name was changed to Jordan right around the time I was 2 years old.
Wow.
So incredible blessing to be able to have inherited a dad, not even understanding what that looked like before a man to come in, give his name, give his legacy, give his everything to me to be a Jordan.
Sure.
It gives me, I think, just a glimpse of Gentile to, you know, to being grafted
The
in of
adoption.
what
Wow.
that looks like of
Amen.
being brought into
Powerful.
the faith or whatever. So
Amen.
that was kind of my journey in that aspect. So I grew up in South Central LA. We was poor. You could call it lower middle class. Growed up right in growed up right in South Central LA,
Hey,
4th
y'all,
Ave,
what up,
Slauson. You know, about 9 blocks from where the Marathon, where Nip's shop would have been located, right on the corner of Slauson and Crenshaw.
Wow.
I literally, that's where I would walk up to catch the 210 bus. You know what I mean, to go to where I was going. And so South Central LA was crazy for me because as a kid growing up, right in the mix of Crips and Bloods. It was crazy because I had a dad at home.
Yeah.
Whereas in that neighborhood, you know, Crenshaw High School, we called it Cripshaw High School.
Wow.
Was right up the block. And then if you went a certain amount of blockage a certain way, then there was blood territory. And so it was literally like, call it a minefield.
Right.
But literally it was like you're growing up knowing where to go and where not to go. So you kind of stayed on your block. You knew what to wear. You knew certain things about the neighborhood that would allow you to kind of move through the hood, you know, in certain places. I can remember, you know, just super crazy memories as I'm sitting here talking or whatever. I remember the Rolling 60 Crips or whatever. Like I was never a gang member, but I was always affiliated.
Sure.
Because I was around them, you know, all the time.
Yeah.
You know, I had guys that would give me 2-finger handshakes or whatever because the Rolling 60, that's what they did or whatever. And I was never forced or posed to actually do that because I had a dad at home that I knew that no matter what circumstance was going to happen to me in my hood, whatever my dad was going to do to me would be a lot worse than whatever was going to happen in the hood. So shout out to Mr. Elijah Jordan
We see you,
for
baby.
being my dad and for doing that for me.
Beautiful.
So grew up always in church. Church doors open, I'm there.
Sure.
You know, I think from the time I was about 9 or 10 years old, that's where I started to take piano lessons from our pastor.
Okay.
I never learned how to play music per se by reading music. I tried, but I learned that I had the gift of playing music by ear. And so what would happen is my pastor was training up musicians. So me and a couple other people, Shep Crawford, who were going to be a super producer. Now he's pastoring the Experienced Christian Ministry out in California now. But me and a lot of those musicians, we were trained how to play by ear because musicians were super expensive back then in the James Cleveland era and in the commission era to be able to start raising or to find musicians. And so my pastor back then, Pastor Richard Stubbs of the Carver Missionary Baptist Church in South Central LA.
I know that's right.
He basically raised up musicians to be able to, this was funny, dude. I only really started out playing in like 4 different keys. And it was because those were the keys that he used to get, I think I feel my help coming
Pastor
on.
Sean gonna know about that.
Oh, yes, brother.
So G, A flat, B flat, like those were his
take
keys.
me into my element.
And then I could switch keys and all of that. So,
Nice.
But learn to play music by ear, and I think that was a place of where I can remember God would be speaking to me at a very young age. He spoke to me through people.
Yeah.
He spoke to me through music.
Yeah.
And I didn't know it was him back then because it was very religious, growing up in that Baptist setting. I didn't know about relationship with God.
Right.
I literally knew about religion, and that's what we used to do. We used to make that happen. And so you trained up these church musicians, church pianists, and I could be hitting the keys and doing what we need to do for the A and B selections.
Sure.
And when the pastor comes up and he's about to deliver his message, we would leave, go out the backside of the church, walk down to Coco's liquor store, get the chili cheese Fritos. We knew time-wise how much time we had to get back before. So I was always around church.
Right.
I could say I was in church, but church wasn't in me. So that's kind of how I was brought up, being around it. And because of being in the Baptist faith, we didn't really do the whole Holy Spirit thing. That was kept at a minimum. And so I never knew about relationship with the living God. I never knew about relationship with Holy Spirit. All those different things were really foreign to me, man.
Yeah.
That's
It's
kind of my
powerful.
upbringing. I was a church kid, brought up in that whole world of when people wanted to be, at that time, you wanted to be an NBA ball player, or you wanted to come out of the hood and join the WWF before it was the WWE.
Right.
There was all these different things you aspired to be, and people would always say to me, boy, you're going to be a pastor one day. Boy, you're going to minister one day. And I would be like, nah, you missed God on that one. Because I didn't want to do that.
Know who you hearing from.
Yeah, I don't think that's God. That's not God. But even back then, I think there was words spoken over me that I would minister, that I would speak, that I would teach, that I would preach, that I would sing, that I would do those things. But I didn't want to do those things because I wanted to go the route of what I thought fame and what fortune and all those things were.
So you're in LA, gifted, and people are even recognizing the giftedness there. You're being shaped by church culture.
Yeah.
Solid daddy in the home, helping you to navigate the world of living in LA, particularly in the 80s and 90s.
At the height of a lot of gang culture.
I'm so glad that you, because every time someone talks about that, we want to know what is happening in relationship to the Bloods and Crips. I'm glad you did that. What was sort of your introduction into the music industry? And also, was there any kind of overlap with what was happening with Death Row and sort of what was happening with the West Coast, East Coast kind of situation? Can you bring us into that?
That's a great
Dr.
question.
Jordan.
That's a great question. All right, so I was in the height, in the mix of all of that, of what was going on. So a lot of people don't know this story, which is I guess pretty cool. But I went to Pepperdine University. I was able to get to study communications, minor in business, and while I was in school, I was also trying to figure out how to get singing in dorm rooms and trying to figure out how that would eventually maybe one day lead to the music business stuff.
Yeah.
One of my fraternity brothers, I joined Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated during that time when I was in my college years.
Gotcha.
And one of my fraternity brothers is a guy named John Singleton, who is no longer alive.
Legend.
Rest his soul. John Singleton at that time was working on movies like Boys in the Hood, things like that.
Yeah.
And so I got to see scripts and parts of what he was doing before those things actually came out. Wow. John had a company called New Deal. And so I graduated from college, kind of sort of, that's another story for another day. But I come out of college, I'm working with a company, I'm doing nightclubs and shows in Los Angeles, in Pasadena, California. Shanice Wilson's mom, Crystal and Penny, were hosting a showcase, and I would go and sing there. And Budweiser Best in the West Talent Showcase, all those type of things. I'm like hitting the circuit trying to get that record deal. John Singleton is interested in me because he's a fraternity brother and because he does movies, but he also is starting to branch into music. He's got New Deal Productions and he's starting to do New Deal Records.
Sure.
And with New Deal Records, he's trying to get guys like me, guys like Mr. Grimm, Indo Smoke, Warren G, like all of these budding from the West Coast artists with Dre, all of that was starting to pop because Def Jam had New York City on lock.
Right.
And you had a bunch of stuff happening coming out of New York, and now the gangster rap scene is doing its thing out on the West Coast. And so I was kind of it was just funny. I was a rapper before I was a singer, and a lot of people don't know that. I would be at Six Flags, Magic Mountain. I see ciphers. I would hop into the cipher, and I would go. I had bars, and I would get it. And then between rapping and singing, that's how eventually I was only able to get my record deal because I would be rapping, and it was like, nah, but you rap, you got to be doing gangster rap. And so I was like, that's not my upbringing. I got a pops at home. I know gang culture, but I'm more affiliated than in it or whatever. So I couldn't do that. And so I started singing. But even my singing, I emulated other people. Like I knew how to sing. I could sound like Michael Jackson. I could sound like Luther Vandross. I knew the key. I knew all of those different things from emulating other people.
Wow.
But did not know what Montell Jordan sounded like. And so that is how I started to craft my sound, by taking hip hop rap lyrics and then singing those lyrics. And so from that standpoint, I'm gonna give you just a quick example. When I did a demo tape for John Singleton, I did a song that went on my first album. The demo tape was a song called Back in LA, where I sampled a B.B. King blues record with this dope guitar riff.
Sure.
And I wrote these rap lyrics and I sang them. And the song went like this. Damn, it's good to be back home in city streets where I used to roam. The neighborhood has changed, but somehow it stays the same. Liquor stores on every other block. I see my homies, so I make a stop. And though I'm tempted, I won't fall back in the game. My next stop is filled with love because it's moms and pops I'm thinking of. And as I get closer, I smell the barbecue. And as I step into the yard, my grandma shouts out, praise the Lord. And so do the honeys. It'll be so cool. All right, so that, and then it goes to be back home, back in LA, where I belong, back in LA. That was a sample, B.B. King singing Back in LA.
Yeah.
So, sidebar, what I just sang that, so do the honeys, that's where Something for the Honeys came from later on my first album. But it came from taking bits and pieces of that right there. And so, long story short, I would rap and sing. I would rap and sing, and then John Singleton was interested in trying to do me as a West Coast version of what was happening on the East Coast. Paul Stewart, DJ P, was a huge factor. White boy from South Central, dope guy. He was John's A&R for New Deal. Yeah. But somehow they started falling out, and because Paul was doing the music side of his company, all of the relationships, even though I was a fraternity brother with John, all my musical stuff was through Paul. Warren G's stuff was through Paul. All of the artists were going through Paul. And so when they started falling out, and that thing kind of disintegrated, I'm trying to come up. I'm trying to figure out, how do I get on? How do I get put on? I'm calling New Deal. Can I speak to John? Oh, John's busy right now. Okay, can I talk to John, on Thursday? Yeah, he'll be in on Thursday. I'll be waiting, eating top ramen, living in North Hollywood, can't pay rent. I'm on Social Security. Like, I'm getting the checks, and I'm trying to figure it out. And I call on Thursday. Oh, John's not in the office. He'll be back Friday. Okay, I call John on Friday. Oh, John left for the bill. He'll be back on. This happened for months, dude. And John's my guy, like I said, rest his soul. But he was into film, and music wasn't his thing. And then Paul would step in and be like, yo, so John help you yet? And I was like, nah, man, but I'm rocking with John. And so this happened for months and months and months. And finally, Paul was like, look, if you give me your demo tape, I'm going to take it to Russell Simmons in New York City, And I think you got something, man. Just give me the demo.
Wow.
And so I went down to the corner store, got one of them little ratty plastic cassette tapes.
Yeah.
They're like the real cheap ones that you would get or whatever, colored. It was see-through with the rainbow colors on it. And I did the rattiest version of my demo that I could find. And I gave him, Paul, that demo. And Paul took the demo. And whatever he did with it, whoever he played it for, he said, "I'm sending you a ticket to New York City." I never traveled before. He sent me a round trip ticket from LA to New York to come out and to meet with Russell. And so that's how I got put on to Def Jam through DJ Paul Stewart through a demo tape.
Wow, that's deep.
So shout out to John, because I would not have met Paul had it not been him. But Paul, John was a filmmaker, man. He's a genius filmmaker, and Paul at that time was his right hand that was handling all his music. So all of the Def Jam West, all of those artists that came through that, Warren, who was Dr. Dre's cousin or whatever, all of those guys, we were brought in to be a representation of West Coast music, brought into Def Jam, so the Def Jam was trying to expand out to the West Coast. That's how we got in.
That's powerful.
That is powerful.
I was Russell's rap singer. When I first got on, he called me his rap singer. That's how he introduced me. This is my rap singer.
Yes. Wow. Which kind of pioneered a whole style.
I mean, now.
The rap singing style. You feel what I'm saying? So you get to Def Jam. One of the things that we know, given documentaries like TLC, given the movie Why Fools Fall in Love. Also, I'm just an artist and been in the music industry for 10 years.
Just an artist.
Labels.
Yeah.
They don't always give you.
I got jerked.
That's it. You want to get?
How was the deal? How was the deal?
I got jerked.
They did you. They did you dirty.
So here was my deal.
Oh no.
And let me start by saying this, because there's always artists out there like they want to know, how do I get a deal, or what do I do, or how. And so let me just say this. First of all, I got jerked on my deal, but understand, it's a deal. And by the very nature of the word, a deal is normally what you agree to.
Right.
My uncle would say a good deal is where everybody feels like they get screwed a little bit. Like, I'm doing a deal, I'm giving this up, you're giving this up, this or that. That was not what happened with me. And all respect to Paul Stewart, it was not a great deal for me, because I was offered out the gate $120,000 to do my project. This is back then or whatever. And so when they came to me with 120, I was like, okay, that's a good starting point. Let's go back to the table, negotiate. I had a lawyer. Let's go back and, let's do this at 300. You said 120, I say 300. And it was like, no, you don't understand. It's going to be 120 or you don't get the deal. There is no negotiation.
No negotiation, yeah.
So I took the 120,000. Def Jam actually, I think, did the deal for 360,000. But Paul got his piece of the pie.
Right.
Shout out to Paul Stewart. He got his piece or whatever. And I was able to do that first album, the This Is How We Do It album, with 17 samples, all of that. There's probably 20-something samples on the entire album. But I did that album for 120. And I took the first advance from that first 40, and I built a studio and got equipment or whatever so that I could put the project together.
Yeah. So the project comes out on the Def Jam. And at what point did you realize, oh, this thing is just went like this, we going to the moon? At what point was that clear to you?
My wife is a G.
Okay.
That's how I answer that question. My wife is a G. That deal was 7 albums or 10 years, whichever came first.
Sheesh.
Man.
Yeah.
And that very first album, because the money advance was so low, this wasn't like, oh, we're giving you $1 million. This wasn't that. I used every dime of that trying to get artists and trying to get features and clearing samples, all of that. Yeah. That first project, we sat down. This is where I learned about recoupability too, as well. I'm sitting at Morton's Steakhouse in California. The whole label is out there, everybody eating steaks and this and that. I didn't realize all that was recoupable to me back then.
That's it, man.
Recoupment. Learn that before you get your deal.
Yeah,
No idea.
You paying for all of this? Thank you.
Everything. Yes, thank you.
Get another drink on there.
But I'm sitting there, and the label said to me, "What are you thinking about this project? How do you think this? What are you expecting?" And my wife, like, she was like, oh, we're gonna sell 1 million records.
And you were married at the time.
I was married, but we didn't say anything.
Gotcha.
Because that's a whole nother story.
Right.
Okay.
But it was people don't want an R&B artist who's unattainable, and people
Right.
don't want a manager, or they're not going to respect a manager who is the wife. So we hid that from the. But Def Jam knew. Def Jam knew. But basically, my wife says to them, or Kristen says to them, we're gonna sell 1 million records. And they laughed around that table. Like the company laughed.
For
like,
real.
You're a new artist. What are you thinking?
Yeah.
She's like, no, we're gonna sell 1 million records. And the company was like, listen, you're a new artist. If you can sell 300,000 records as a new artist, that will be a big win. That'll be huge if you can do that.
Colossal.
And my wife was like, yeah, we're gonna sell 1 million records. And so that was like the big rub. And so what happens is when we start with Def Jam and we start to releasing the single and everything, this is when you would actually release actual singles.
Yes.
Right.
They had printed 500,000 singles. They only printed 150,000 albums of my albums.
Sure.
And so when my single dropped, when this is how we do it, dropped, which was about 3 weeks before the album dropped. The single dropped, and the first week, the single did 60,000 singles.
Wow.
And then the next week, it did 70,000.
Yeah.
And then the next week, it did 90,000.
Yes.
Now understand, 60, 70, 90, they only printed 500,000.
Yeah.
So they're going back to the single now, and they started printing more singles
Can I
up.
just stop you real quick and I just want to give a piece of context for the audience. Don't let those numbers just blow past you.
Right.
Oh.
To be a new artist, nobody knows who you are, and you drop it in the first week you do it, and
That's
and
crazy.
to know that it was $120,000, we're talking millions of dollars to break a new artist.
Right.
Yeah.
So something special was happening.
It was big.
Don't want folks to miss that. Go ahead.
It was big. And so the single starts blowing up, and then the album drops. And the album comes out and does 60,000 in the first week.
Yeah.
And then the next week it does 80,000. This is the album.
Yes. Yeah.
Singles doing, albums doing. All right. So this stuff is blowing up. It's starting to move up the charts like crazy. But they don't have enough albums because they only printed 150,000 albums.
Right.
So people going to get the Montell Jordan, This Is How We Do It album, there's no albums left. So they buy the single. So now the single's doing 130, 140,000 a week. I'm not talking streams.
Crazy.
We're talking real sales.
I'm talking people
Right.
buying a 99-cent or or spending $10, $12 on an album. So the single is blowing through the roof. It starts going to number one. We're making a killing with that, but we don't have enough albums, and it's going to take them a couple of weeks. And so the company, this is Def Jam's first number one record. So when it goes to number one, they want it to stay at number one. It stays at number one for 8 weeks. And so what they do is they just keep selling singles.
And you dethrone Madonna at that point too.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's funny. You know that because there's a funny story behind that. But just to circle back while I'm telling that story is because when my wife said we're going to sell 1 million records, in my deal, in that $120,000 deal that was not a great deal, the two things that were great about that deal was they said, well, it's $120,000. This is all the money you're getting. Kristen asked for two things in that deal. She said, if we sell the 300,000 that you're talking about, I want you to get my husband this truck, big black truck that he's always talking about in his songs.
Yeah.
They were like, cool. And if we sell 1 million records, I want you to pay his college loans off. My college loans at the time were $86,000 at Pepperdine University. And so both of those things happened. And so I got my big black truck and my college debt was completely wiped out.
Wow.
Nice.
She was prophetic. Sell 1 million records and we making the dash.
Yeah, she did.
That's what happened. That's what happened. Yeah.
So this is how we do it, is going through the roof. So I imagine that you start touring now.
Yes.
Okay. So you're touring the record now. What's kind of happening in the world of, because I know and you playing this in different cities.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about that.
Touring was crazy. Touring wasn't, when my record was popping off and it was on the charts and hitting really big, I went over to Europe, which was good and bad at the same time. Because normally when you got a number one record, you're supposed to be on Saturday Night Live.
Right,
You're supposed
right.
to be on the Tonight Show. You're supposed to be doing that. But I was overseas, doing the whole polygram distribution, all those different Spain, all that was happening there. And so I missed a lot of opportunity to make the record even bigger in the United States than it was. At that time, the tours that were going out, my wife was trying to get me on the Budweiser. I think it was a Budweiser. It was the Budweiser Superfest.
Okay.
One of Al Heyman tours back then, super big. And Boyz II Men was going out. Boyz II Men, TLC, Mary J. Blige, and my wife said, "We're gonna get Montell on that tour." And Def Jam once again was like, "It doesn't work like that, honey. It doesn't work like that." And literally somehow my wife was able to reach out and speak with Al Heyman and take lesser money, figure it out or whatever. But I was the opening act for the Budweiser, for that Superfest tour. So I opened up, and then it was Mary J. Blige, and then it was TLC.
Yeah.
And then the Boyz II Men were the headliners.
Yeah.
And then as that tour went out, most of the end of 94, most of 95, what happens, Mary blew up bigger than she had already been, and so she went on her own tour. So it was just me, TLC, and Boyz II Men. And then as we went out for like another month or two, my girl T-Boz, her sickle cell started flaring up or whatever, and then TLC had to leave the tour.
Right.
And so then it was just me and Boyz II Men, and they never added anybody else on the tour. It was just me and Boyz II Men, and we traveled for about a year and a half on that Superfest tour, me opening for Boyz II Men.
Wasn't there an incident on that tour when did you fall?
Almost died, yeah.
Wait, what? Talk to us about almost dying.
What happened there? Because I think you fell and hit your head or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So what happened? It was like a miracle.
There's no question. I say Boyz II Men saved my life. Jesus saved my life, but Boyz II Men had a lot to do with it. And here's how they go. I'm gonna try and keep this super brief as best I can. I toured with these guys for a year and a half, and I never saw their show. I was a hustler. So I would come out, I'm the opening act. So I would come out, I do the opening act stuff. And then after I'm done, I had photographers that would set up my backdrop and we would sell pictures and stuff like that. So here's the hustle. I would take pictures, like you take photograph, back then Polaroid.
Sure.
Polaroid was an actual piece of plastic that a picture would be on. And so you could
If it was really real, you would get a black Sharpie and write that would be your caption at the bottom.
No, I'm telling you.
Oh, there it is.
So the photographer that I would take on the road would bring me the little picture holders that you would slide a picture into.
Right.
I would pre-sign my name on these. So I'd sign like 200 of these. And then right after my show, I would say, yo, I'm coming out to take pictures with everybody. And then I would literally walk through the crowd and they're like, yo, he's actually out here.
Right.
And I would go stand in front of my backdrop, and instead of charging $20 for a picture, they charge $40 for a picture because you there with the actual artist.
Right.
So my man would break me off 20, he'd take 20, and that was my side hustle on top of that, right?
Nice.
So I do this every city. Kevin Lodge used to say to me, you want to know how to sell 1 million records, touch 1 million people. And so that was my way of having a point of contact of trying to touch, 1 million people in that way.
That's a gym. Hold on now. That's a gym. Let that marinate and go ahead.
Okay. And so I'm signing up. And because of that year and a half that I did that, I never saw Boyz II Men show because I would be hustling or whatever.
Right.
Last show, Vancouver, Canada. I'm finally like, yo, I want to watch the Boyz II Men show tonight. I'm in the actual audience. They got a space for me and my dancers. We watching Boyz II Men show. It's my first time watching their show from, and it's amazing. And I'm watching them. And my dancers at the time had planned a practical joke. They were going to prank. They had cans of silly string.
Okay.
And during the time on Boyz II Men's set, when they do Motown Philly, my dancers going to run on stage and get Boyz II Men with these cans of silly string. So literally, during the concert, while Boyz II Men is doing Motown Philly or whatever, my dancers come out of the audience, run up kind of on the side of the stage with silly string all of Boyz II Men. And they're like, oh, this is crazy or whatever. We traveled for a year and a half together. So it's a relationship.
Right.
So they look up into the crowd. They like, yo, Montell, get up here. Montell, get up here. So I come out of the stands or whatever, and I'm walking, and I kind of walk down this little pathway, and I get onto the stage with them. They got live band and everything. So we start doing a mash-up of Motown Philly and This Is How We Do It together. Motown Philly's back, this is how we do it.
I love that.
Coming from the west side. It's cool. I'm on stage with Boyz II Men, yo. What a fantastic way to end this 2 years of being out on the road together.
Right.
After that's done, that moment is done, they shout me out with love, this, that, the other. So I am now walking off the stage. I walk around the front of the stage and I walk around to the back of the stage. Now I'm at the back of the stage. Now if you imagine that this is the entire stage here, I'm all the way, I hope these cameras can follow me. But I'm all the way on this side, looking all the way backstage. It's super, super dark. And there's a red light down on the end, look like a police siren light, but it's just a little light and it's just spinning. It's red. It's pitch black back there except for that light. And then I can barely see way on the other side of the stage. All of my dancers that were on stage, they're all down there on the other side, crouching down, going like this, with their fingers in their ears. And I can barely make out. I'm like, what is going on? And I realized that light is about to signify that pyrotechnics is about to go off. I never seen that show. So I don't know what's going on. And so the moment I figure out what's happening, this loud explosion goes boom. And it flares seem like they start coming at me. I guess that's where everything is kind of locked in. It's coming from behind me and in front of me. And I see these flares start to come in at me, these explosives. And so I saw them with the hands in the ears. So my first inclination is cover your ears. Right. And so I leaned back against the wall, but it wasn't a wall. This is the curtain that's the back of the stage. And the stages normally are 6 feet off the ground, right? Yes. So when you build up the platform, it's normally standard 6 or 7 feet. So I literally put my hands in my ears and I lean back against the wall and there's like a curtain and I literally fall through the curtain with my hands in my ears and I fall 6 feet to the floor where I can't break my fall because I didn't know it was coming. And I literally fall back to the concrete floor with my hands up by my head. My dancers say they just saw me and it just looked like I just disappeared or whatever. What? So now they're coming, they're trying to get down because they can't just jump back. They got to go out and go down the stairs to get to me. During that time while that's happening, it feels like forever because I am now realizing I'm on the floor. I realize that I've fallen and I'm trying to think to myself, am I dead? Like, did I die back here? Right. And I'm like, this is all what's going through my head. I promise this is what's going through my head. I'm thinking to myself, when I was growing up in South Central, they could say you get shot and you wouldn't even know you got shot until you saw the blood. I was like, maybe my head bust open, but I don't know because I don't see the blood yet. Right. So I'm laying there on the concrete, and so I try and turn my head so I can see if there's blood near my head. Is there any blood? I don't see any blood. Okay, so maybe I didn't bust my head open, but maybe I'm paralyzed. Maybe I'm laying here, and maybe I'm just gonna be paralyzed for life or whatever. And so I'm now trying to move all this is what's going through my split second or whatever. But in my mind, it was like, this is just taking forever or whatever. And then finally, I think people came around, they were able to make it back. My wife is back. And during that time when I am back there, what I can hear and what I'm told is that they let Boys to Men know that I had fallen off the stage. They turned on all the house lights in the entire stadium and they asked everybody to pray for me. Wow. They asked everybody to pray for me. During the concert stopped, lights clicked on. Dude fell back on stage. They can hear ambulance coming after a couple minutes. Pray for our guy. And I believe that prayer is what saved my life. Wow. Because the ambulance came. They put me on a cart. Right. Because, they got to be real delicate. They put me on a cart. Guys actually trying to take pictures with me while they put me in the ambulance. Wow. You got to seize the moment. Yeah, I get that. But dude, I did not have a concussion. I had no marks on me. Like nothing happened other than me having crazy headache and crazy soreness. Right. Because in 3 days we were going to get on a flight to Australia. That I was going to start my Australia tour. Yeah. So all of that happened. I should have died that night. But I believe when you got 15 to 20,000 people that all can come into agreement to pray for one thing specifically, that it can change something. And I believe that's how my life was saved that night.
Praise
so
God,
shout out to Sean and Wanye.
All
Nate.
the shouts. Shout out to Boys to Men, man.
What a powerful story, man.
All my guys. I feel like they helped save my life that night, bro.
Amen.
God,
Amen.
Man.
Well, talk to us about how you at height of career, at what point did the ministry become something that was beckoning you, that you were like, yo, my destiny is actually in ministry, outside of what I'm doing, on the road. So, and when did your faith? I know you said before that the church. I was in the church. Church wasn't in me. When did that change?
The music business was dark, man, and we were Christians in the music business.
Right.
So even doing This Is How We Do It, even with the cussing on the records, with everything, we were still tithing, we were still attending church and trying to figure it out.
Sure.
Like torn, trying to figure out how can I do this? How can I be in the business? And so in a very, very dark business, we were still probably the closest thing to Christianity, at least outward Christianity. Like my wife gave Mary J. Blige her Bible.
Wow.
Like there were moments that I meet people to this day that'll say, yo, I was on tour. I was working the radio station with you. Or I was interning for Def Jam. And for this 2 years, I was running you through Virginia. And I remember us sitting down and you were schooling me about being in church and this. And I remember this conversation about finding your purpose. So even not knowing I was doing ministry, I say I didn't go to seminary. I went to cemetery. And meaning I had to go to a place where I had to die differently to be able to come alive again and know what my purpose was. And so even today, a lot of my purpose came from doing ministry in unorthodox, non-ministry like places.
Right,
and so the music business was my church almost. It was when I came in contact with artists. I can tell you a night that I was with TLC, or I was with in particular with T-Boz, with Chili, and I was praying with Chili before a show or whatever. That's my girl. We in A together. We were praying, and T-Boz was walking by. He's like, "Hold on, don't just be praying without me. Like I want Jesus to, let me in there." You're like, there were these moments that I can look by, defined moments in time where I've been with artists. My guy, getting emotional. My guy Biz Marquis just passed away. I was just at his funeral. Biz, his wife Tara, their family, whatever. I used to pray with Biz out on the road when we would tour together. I could see when his body wasn't, right, or something was wrong. Me and my wife, we'd be out there and we lay hands on him and just be praying over him. And he'd go out and kill his show. Like I have tons of stories of being a pastoral presence in the midst of the music business, not even recognizing that was part of the call. So although I know powerful. That the local church is the hope of the world, I believe that. I believe that there's a pastoring call potentially for me to possibly do that as well. I don't know what that looks like. I'm praying through that even now, honestly. But in that, I realized that call of what you are asking, that question, when did that hit? It's always been there, but it just hasn't been there in the local church in a particular building per se. It's been wherever I go, I'm trying to make sure that when I step into a room, that people know that I am walking with shoes on that I didn't buy, and that's the shoes of Christ are what I try and walk in. Those shoes of peace, those shoes of, there's something different about this guy. When he walks in there, something changes the room. And I don't know, is it his charisma? Is his woo effect? No, it is not that. It's none of those things. I've always known I had that. And I think that's what sustained us in the music business, even with the mistakes I would make, even with the detriment I would bring to my marriage, even all the devastating things that we had to navigate through to be a part of our testimony. I do believe that God kept us through that so that we would be able to talk about it at a later time.
That's powerful. That's powerful. It's making me think about a friend of mine who's a massive writer, artist himself. And when he was starting to get really serious about Jesus, and I was talking to him, and he was saying, "Man, I'm thinking about just like being done with all of this. I think I'm just gonna leave the music industry and just be out of here and maybe go to Bible college or something like that." And I was like, I don't know if you do that.
Don't do that.
Because you said that last night after y'all got off stage, you led Bible study with your whole non-believing band.
Right.
You think that, it'd be better for you to just leave all of them and then go and go coop up at a Bible college somewhere.
Put yourself in a bubble of Christians.
Yeah. I mean, man, there is something powerful and regular, because the regular Christian experience is what you just described. Exactly. It's really it's unique when folks leave everything to, kind of only be within a bubble.
Right.
We need that. That's good.
No question.
But we certainly need individuals who are incarnational.
Right.
One of the things about the music industry is that it is hard on marriages. It is hard on marriages. Personally,
that's just music industry, period. Not Christian
so
music.
I'm talking about the music industry.
Yes.
And it's an important thing to remember that even as, we are I'm considered a Christian artist, and I'm a part of a label. I was a part of Reach Records, and then now I'm a part of Provident, which is a emanation of Sony. So Sony owns Provident. It's still the music industry.
That's right.
And you a lot of times, especially in the Christian music industry, it's the same players. You got, you're on the same roster as these other artists.
Radio stations are in the same buildings, different floors.
Right. There's a lot of, sort of intersection, and you're going to find the same problems.
Of course.
I know there's an artist in my mind right now that I'm thinking about who probably gets on the stage drunk every single night singing songs to Jesus. You know what I'm saying? I know marriages that are just on the rocks. Dudes can't wait to get back on the road again to get away from their family. And because they're sick of all the or whatever they are not managing or whatever the issues may be within the, I've just seen it's very rough on the family. That's why I have, in some ways, I've had a lot of dudes that have went before me, Lecrae being one of them, that saved me, I think, from a lot of the spider webs I was going to walk into. Right. And say, hey, this is how you put some stuff in place. You take some time off. Cap your salary. Right. Make sure that you remember that every opportunity you get isn't the last one. One thing that Lecrae told me that's always been helpful for me is that there will always be opportunities. Yeah. Do not think because you got this opportunity that it will never happen again if you have to say no. So I'll sacrifice anything to go do this thing. He said no. Hold it loosely. As long as you're good at what you do, you're gonna have opportunities to do it. Right. So you need to be asking yourself is how can you stay good at what you do? Right. And it's hard to stay good at what you do when your kids hate you and you haven't seen your wife in 6 weeks. Right. So there's a kind of thing that we have to be aware of. How did your marriage sort of kind of walk through the fire of being in the music industry
and not smell like smoke, which is crazy. So there's two things I want to address here. I want to say this first before I particularly ask that, because you talked about opportunity. Yeah. And what you've said, what Craig has said, also a dear friend, there's a difference between opportunity and responsibility. God gives us opportunity. Yes. He also gives us responsibility. That's good. And a lot of people will take the opportunity above the responsibility. That's good. I had an opportunity to lead worship for 100,000 people at a concert. But I had a son who at the time had a football game. Now, I asked the people who gave me the opportunity, can I go on the show earlier? Nope, you can't go on the show earlier. Can I go on the show later? Nope, we need you right here. But my son has a game right here. Yep, we understand that, but this is an opportunity to perform in front of 100,000 people and bring the gospel. Yeah. That's a big deal to bring the gospel to 100,000 people. Facts. But that's not the responsibility God gave me. He gave me the responsibility to raise my son. Sure. And so I had to shun this opportunity to make sure I was taking care of the responsibility. And when you can show your faithfulness to the responsibility that he gave you, then he gives you more opportunity. Because I was able to go see my son, watch him score a touchdown, came back to the concert that night, and then sang with Mac Powell as a headliner. Whereas before I was supposed to be in the middle of a show. Right. And now I'm at the end with the headliner because God said, because I know you handle your responsibility, I can trust you with opportunity. So with that being said, now to circle back to the question about the marriage, let me I always throw this out on the table like this. I was an adulterer. I wasn't just like a one-time cheat on your wife, adulterer. I was a travel around the world for 5 to 6 years, struggling as a guy who loved Jesus, but had a void of Holy Spirit that allowed me to experience loneliness, where I would go on a stage and have 50,000 people, Georgia Dome, 70,000 people screaming and wanting you and wanting to be with you and all of that, knowing you married, don't give a damn. They want you. They want a piece of you. They want a part of you. And then come out of that and take that into a hotel room or onto a tour bus by yourself, where you come from that adoration. People were not designed to carry fame.
That's good. Somebody's got to say it.
People were not designed to carry fame. and you will watch it self-destruct over and over again.
Always.
Because when you carry fame, it's something that we weren't designed as humans to be idolized. We weren't designed to carry that. And so if you don't have the template of being able to take that fame and carry it, and then take that to make the name of somebody else more famous than you, to give that thing. I get this picture, man. I get a picture of God, and they talk about, I think it's in Revelation. I'm not sure. You're a theologian, so you probably know what I'm talking about. But there's this picture of the elders taking their crowns off and laying them at the feet of the Father. Just, oh, holy, 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 and just taking it off. And I always get this picture of when people do that, when they come to you and they put this crown on you, oh, you the king, oh, you this, Montell, you this and that. I take that crown and I lay that at God's feet in that way.
This is yours.
And I say, this is yours.
Yes.
And then I feel like because he loves me, he says, you my son, boy. And he puts you get on out there and get him. And I go back out there, and the people, they do that. And every time that I can continue casting my crown, and I continue to put it at his feet, he says, but no, I'm the king, and I can make you what I need you to be because I know you'll bring it back to me.
Right.
So that's what would happen. And so in our marriage, man, that was a journey of people casting fame onto me that I was not designed to carry. Yeah. And you start to implode. You start to go through depression. I put on gain of weight. I was in sin. I wore that sin outwardly and inwardly because I was trying to hide my failures. I was trying to hide all those things. And the only way that I was able to get to a place of getting to healing was I got outed. I got outed by friends who loved me enough that would eventually say, if you don't expose this to your wife, we can't continue to be friends. And not only that, if you don't do it, we will. And at that point, I was like, okay, this is not something I want. It wasn't like I wanted to continue sinning. I was that dude. I would sin just a little. And go back to Jesus and be like, oh, God, I'm so sorry. Heal me, God, fix me. And then I get healed and I get fixed or whatever. And then 3 months later, I fall back even deeper. And I go back to the cross. And then a couple months, I fall back deeper. No Holy Spirit, man. I had no keeper, dude. And so literally, I finally got to that place where I'd fallen so many times that it's just, I'm wearing it in weight. I'm wearing it in sin. I'm just wearing it. I'm just talking about it in my songs.
Right.
When I'm looking at you, keep thinking, why can't she be like you? So I'm scheming. I can't go on like this, believing her love is true. Standing on the dance floor while she tricking. You are all I want, girl. She's a chicken. We might be together, but love is missing. Girl, I want you. So what can we do? Girl, if it's all right, let's go somewhere and get it on tonight. I got a girl, but you look good tonight. It's one. Like all my songs. I am singing, you know, stepped in the club after my show, you know, the spot where everybody's on the low. That's when I saw her. She saw me. She told me she liked Master P and Montell occasionally. So I laid back, put a 50 in my mouth, said, I want you to see Shaking Girl. That's what that, but all the in the club, they was jealous of me because I waited for it. I stayed for it. I'm damn about to pay for it. Let's like I am in sin, dude. And this is not just like Creole. Oh, he's just so dumb. Like I am living this thing out, and I'm telling everybody, I'm destroying my marriage. I'm destroying my life, and I don't have a way out. And people are just like, yo, give him a Grammy, or you know, let's get to the award show or whatever. And so that pain, dude, I navigated that with my wife. And here's how it came to the front.
Talk to us.
I realized that when I was given that ultimatum from people that love me, you tell her or we'll tell her. I was thinking, if you tell her, I die. If y'all tell her, because Kristen Jordan, I'm not gonna live through this. I know that. You tell her, that's death sentence.
Hang life up.
If I tell her, I may have to, you know, we get divorced. We split up the kids on different weekends. We rotate. I give you, you know, I didn't do a prenup, any of those things. But I live. I live 50% of the life that I had, but I get to live. And so that was the standpoint that I took. And so I go to my wife and I exposed to her what I had done. That was hell.
Oh, it must have been.
It was hell for her. It was liberating for me because for years I've been carrying this sin all to myself. And now I have unloaded all these details, all this sin onto my wife. So now she's carrying a load that we were probably meant to try and figure out together for years. And I've unloaded this onto my wife. My wife has the opportunity to leave, like legitimately leave, take half. He did this legitimately. There's record of it. Every place that I've been, leave and take half.
Yeah.
And she asked the same person that outed me, what do you think I should do? And those people that outed me said, did you pray about it? And she's like, no, I ain't pray about it because I think I know what God is going to say.
Pray about.
I think, yeah, you know. And what God basically reveals to my wife, and I know this is for somebody out there that's watching this. I know this is for somebody out there. God says to my wife, why leave and take half when you can stay and have it all? That's what he says to her.
Wow.
And her response to that is, but how can I ever trust him again? And his response to her is, I'm not asking you to trust him. I'm asking you to trust the me in him. Because I've never been in him like I'm going to be in him before. Remember, I started out this podcast and I said I was in church, but church wasn't in me.
Right.
Like I knew the technical things to do. I knew how to usher in the presence of God through musicality. I knew how to, my lifetime has been used to use music, the gift God put in me, but not for the purpose that he put it in me for.
Right.
So I'm using the gift, the beautiful gift of music, I'm using it to entertain people and not using it to draw people closer to the presence of God.
Wow.
And so in that time, my wife basically goes through the difficult process, she and I, of figuring out what life looks like after infidelity, what it looks like after adultery, what it looks like after forgiveness, what all that is supposed to look like. And so now, just fast forward, because I can't go into the intricacies of what God does there, but now me and my wife do marriage ministry together. Now listen, that doesn't make sense. That the foolish things of the world confound the wise, because that doesn't make sense that a multiple adulterer and his wife are now leading pastors and leaders and couples all over the world to take divorce off the table because of that testimony. And so that's what the music business did for me. It provided me a cemetery opposed to a seminary. It provided me a cemetery for things of Montell Jordan to die, but for, like Lazarus, for God to raise up the things in me that needed to live so that people can see when I step out on the stage today, dude, I'm modern day Lazarus, dude. I'm a dead man walking.
Say that right.
And people see me and they're like, yo, I know that guy, but there's something different about, I was dead.
Yes.
And now I'm
When
alive.
you saw me when I was dead.
Right.
I sang for you in the club. You saw me dead, and now you see me alive. And there's something you recognize that because you look like the same guy, still 50 and still beautiful and handsome and sexy and all that. Because God preserved me, and I didn't have a stench coming out of that. You know what I'm saying? Coming out of that grave clothes and everything. I came out as though it never happened, and so that's what happened to our marriage. To where now we get to minister to couples all around the world through Marriage Masterpiece, PEACE. And it's just, man, who would have thought?
That's powerful.
Who would have thought?
That's powerful, Dr. Jordan. I'll tell you this too, man. Last night at Montell's concert, he's on stage, 10,000 plus people in the room there in Amalie Arena. He's doing his hits, and he started telling people about the gospel. You know what I'm saying? I'm fairly certain that you're probably the only person doing that night. It's, just even the way that you pitch the heart of God to the people, like in showing his compassion, his love, and his longing, and being a testimony of this is who I am, this is what God has done for me.
Man.
And it speaks to the power of grace, man.
Yeah, man.
And one of the phrases that we use sometimes in our community is the scandal of grace. That grace makes fools out of the reasoning of man.
No
makes
sense.
fools out of.
Right.
No sense.
Doesn't make sense.
Not that guy.
Right.
It can't be him. Not her.
Yeah.
Not looking like that. Not after what they've been through. Not after what they've done.
Not that person.
Right.
Not that. And grace says, I don't, what? The more room you give me to flex, the more glory I will take for myself.
Amen.
Don't play with me.
Right.
And man, it's just so faith assuring, man, to sit next to Lazarus.
Right.
And it's so funny. I just preached a few weeks ago on Lazarus. And then I said that. I said, you don't need to just go to the story of Lazarus to see Lazarus. I'm Lazarus.
Yeah.
I stand in front of you as a Lazarus. And And I feel like we may have been dead for longer time. So I
Yeah.
might have been dead for 4 days.
Right.
You might have been dead for 3 years.
Right.
But
Yeah.
man, when Lazarus comes out the grave, man, it is and it's so funny you talked about the stench not being on you, because that's one of the things that Martha was saying to Jesus. Don't open this.
Right.
If you open the grave, it's gonna smell.
Exactly, yeah.
The grave is open, and guess what? There was no smell. It was
Right.
a man that was alive, bro.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just a powerful, powerful exclamation point on the power of grace, the power of the gospel, man.
Amen.
Brother, tell our audience a little bit about some of the things that you're doing now and how we can support you, pray for you, where to find your stuff, that kind of thing as we conclude.
That's dope, man. Thank you. First of all, thank you for your platform, man, because
course.
y'all you're doing your thing, and it means the world to have voices speaking into spaces, where you got all types of folks that are watching. It's my prayer that people that know God are watching this, but people that don't know are watching this and
Yes.
are listening to this. It's super important. What I'm doing now, man, I'm in an interesting space. Me and my wife, we are in the what are we supposed to be doing next?
Got you.
We right before the pandemic in 2020, we launched our 501c3 Marriage Masterpiece.
Okay.
And we set out a goal, kind of marriage missionaries, to go into the world and to help save 1 million marriages, because we believe that that's part of what we're called to do. So I speak, my wife speaks, but we speak really, really good together. Like we are really powerful.
We'll have both of y'all next time.
Together.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
first of all, that would have
We
been
would love
even
that.
a bigger win, because
Wish I would've known.
if you heard me here when I am talking and telling stories about my wife, it's different when my wife is actually here or when she's telling the same story, because there's a different power sequence that's there. But
Sure.
With that being said, we set out to do that, to tour, to speak, to help that happen in the world, and then of course March of 2020, the world shut down, and so that kind of carved a new pathway for us to try and figure out, okay, how do we pivot?
Sure.
What's next? And so part of that journey has been not how do we get out to the world, but how do we get the world to us? Whether it's through upcoming Hopeful podcast, or whether it's through our website, which is montellandkristen.com.
Yeah.
Montell is with 2 L's. Spell out the word A-N-D, and Kristen is K-R-I-S-T-I-N, montellandkristen.com.
Yeah.
Everything that we're touring, every place that we're speaking, all our music videos, things we do together, it all points towards seeing couples reconciled to each other.
I love it.
But first seeing sons and daughters reconciled to God. And so our entire purpose now is to see a man reconciled to God, recognizing he's a son, to see a daughter reconciled to God, recognizing she's a daughter. And when we are sons and daughters reconciled to God, then we can be reconciled to each other as husbands and wives. And husbands and wives reconciled to God and to each other can reconcile with their families. And then their families can be reconciled to the church, and the church can be reconciled to the community. But it all starts with that first point of a son and a daughter being recognized to God.
Amen.
So that's what we're doing. And in that, Marriage Masterpiece is the 501c3. People can give one-time gifts there. They
Yeah.
can be monthly supporters of what we're trying to do. We want to be able to go and take the gospel and bring people who want the gospel of Jesus Christ, and ultimately how to have better, healthier marriages.
Yeah.
That's what we are doing. And so
powerful, man.
that's kind of what we're doing now, man.
That's powerful. And we are more than grateful to be able to share this resource with our audience. The link will be in the description, and I'm sure that Derek, our producer, will put it in the video as well. And we're super encouraged, man. So me and Montell actually have a special connection that he doesn't even know about.
I don't know about this special
at all.
connection.
So, and I mean, I've never told you this story either. So I grew up in a household. God bless my mom, because she's wonderful and,
I love her.
and a hero of mine. She's a wonderful woman. So I'm not, and she listens to everything we do. So she's a patron.
Yep.
She listens to all of the
She
episodes,
comments on my
the
Instagram
live
from
stuff,
time to time.
every post.
Yep.
So everything I say, I realize that she's gonna hear it. So,
Oh boy.
but
She's awesome.
God bless my mom. She really, really wanted me to love Jesus, and with that desire, she did the best. She did what she thought was best.
Right.
One of those things was cutting me off from anything that had to do with hip hop or R&B.
Wow.
Or any level. It was so bad. I love you, Mom. I love you, and we all love you. The whole audience loves you, Mom.
Yes.
It was so bad that when all that came. Remember all
I loved all that. Yep.
You remember how they had the performance at the end, and it was like
TLC and everybody was on
TLC or
there.
the Brat or whatever.
Yep.
She would
TLC
make
did
me
the
leave.
song.
She would make me leave the room. The only music that I could listen to on television was the songs sung by a purple dinosaur named Barney.
Wow.
That was it.
Mom said nothing else.
I mean, she had me. I mean, I couldn't listen to nobody. Her second husband, he loved Erykah Badu.
Oh,
When he be playing that around the house,
Legend.
I was ushered away. I was not allowed to, or if he was
Couldn't
playing
even
that in the
hear On
house,
and
he would
On.
be challenged. No, I couldn't go on and on and
couldn't
on.
even hear On
No.
yeah, your cypher keep moving like a Rolling Stone into that room. That's what's gonna happen with you. That's. No, go ahead.
So she had me. I mean, it was just locked down, man. And so I remember the first time I know where I was standing in my grandmother's kitchen. I could almost remember what I was wearing. I remember the first time I heard R&B, and I heard it over the phone. I was talking to, I forget who I was talking to because they were irrelevant at that point.
I don't know this story.
I was talking to someone over the phone. I must have been 7 or 8 years old, man.
Oh God.
I was on the phone, and in the background, I heard, "This is how we do it." Bro, I remember where I was standing on the corded phone with the curl.
Oh, you had the curl
It
on
had
the
the
curl.
beige
I know
phone.
you
It
talking
had the joint. You had the dial like that. I had the phone in my hand, and I heard, and I was like, wait, hold on. Let me just listen. And it felt like, oh my goodness, the world. It felt like.
Tell the person on the phone, shut up.
Stop.
Let me
Stop
just hear
talking.
this in the background.
It was my
that's
introduction
crazy. I
to
never
the
knew that.
world.
I never knew that
So
about
that
you.
sparked a kind of secret life of mine, where I would, Mom, I don't know if
You
you
was
know
just
this either,
sneaking
Mommy.
and
I love
sneaking
you,
away.
Mommy. Oh, I would sneak
Oh,
tapes.
God.
I got my Walkman. I would
Oh,
steal
God.
tapes or sneak a tape, and I would go into the closet. Make sure nobody was around. Put that tape in. I remember I had Master P, No Limit Soldiers, bro.
Dog,
I was in there,
man,
dog.
you had the-
Like getting the hit, bro. Like I would remember. I would have these small gaps before my mom got home from work and school because my mom made sure that I was supervised.
Right.
So I had like a 5-minute window. I would sprint upstairs,
enough for
turn
one
on
song.
MTV, and just get my hit for the day. Oh, what is this? Wow. I hear that door open. I change the channel to another one.
on TBN. You
Put it on
back
TBN.
It's Kenneth Copeland on there.
Put it on Kenneth Copeland. Turn that mug off and then get a Bible out. You know, I'm walking. Hey, Mom, what's going on? Bro, that's what. In the moment that I was allowed, when I got a little bit older, there was some wisdom in what she was doing. There was a lot of wisdom in what she was doing because some of that stuff I didn't even listen to. But when I could listen to it, man, I would binge. But that was how I got introduced to hip hop culture. That's
so
how
crazy.
I mean, obviously, I'm from St. Pete. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I've been around the hood, but in terms of how we dress, the
culture.
language, the culture,
Yeah.
the vibe, and that has had a big influence on who I am to this day. I mean, that's partly why I do what I do for a living. It was from that introduction I fell in love. I'm telling you, it was like a shot of endorphin.
Right.
that
Like,
went,
where has this been?
What am I feeling? What's happening? I'm moving. It was. This is how we do it.
You're welcome.
Right. That's the
He said, "I'll have my lawyer send over draft the
Sorry,
papers."
Mom. Sorry. You're welcome.
What a song though for you to be introduced to that. I mean, honestly, for real, it's a great. I mean, because even for me, of course, I didn't have the strict upbringing that you had. I was
do
just
whatever
like-
he wanted to do. I mean, was at the concerts at 7 years old.
My mom. First of all, like my mom was always listening to music. My brother's 13 years older than me, so I was exposed to Master P and No Limit and Cash Money and everybody way too early. But I always was listening to your stuff because of my brother and my mom. And my mom loves music still, but like especially this is how we do it. It's a nostalgic for me because it takes me back to when I was a child. And specifically that song. You have a bunch of other great stuff that I love as well. But that takes me back to just my nostalgic moments because my mom would always play it. It would be like a family song. Like we're playing it in the crib, we playing it in the car.
Facts.
We playing it on Fridays when I just had pizza at school and mom got paid.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you know, I'm in a single parent household, so we had to do our thing, but Fridays was the time, man. We threw that on, man, and yeah, man. So
That's
That's what's
powerful,
up,
man.
man.
yeah,
I'm a part of both of y'all lives
You
in that
are,
way.
man.
in a
lives,
very
man.
real way. In a very real way, man.
Make no mistake.
Yeah, it's like you said about music, man. You can feel like I know that I don't know you, but you feel a connection. You know what I'm saying to the artist because a lot of the times their music can almost be like a soundtrack to your life or a certain season in your life.
is.
You know,
It's time
And,
travel.
Yeah, it's time travel,
It's
man.
time travel.
That's
We
exactly
had a
what it
moment,
is.
and you probably, like you said, you could remember where you were standing,
Yup.
what you were wearing,
Yes.
what was
Yeah,
over the
yeah,
phone.
yeah.
Like you
Yup.
remember mom's playing it
Right.
in the house. Those different moments. Friday, it was for the family. Like
Right.
it's time travel, man. With this beautiful memories, crazy memories, trauma, all those different things. Music, takes us back to those moments. I'm
powerful
glad, man, that I got a song that that allows people to go back to a great time in their lives.
Heck yeah.
Even not in the best of times, but it was a great time
Right.
that
Yeah.
people can go back and say, man, during some of the funnest times of my childhood, this or that, this was a song that was playing at that time.
Amen.
So
love it,
Amen
man.
to
that's
that.
cool, man.
God bless you.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Man.
Thank you,
we,
man.
we want this to be a partnership. We want to have you and wifey back.
Yes, please. Talk to us about some marriage.
This is
love
an extended home here in Tampa, man.
Yes.
So
I
keep us
appreciate
in
that,
mind, man.
Thank y'all. Thank you.
This has been Southside Rabbi. Okay, you feel me? My name is K to the second letter,
Me and the Dream.
and we out of here. Peace.